We are live. Sorry for the delay, everyone. So my name is Drew Innes, the CEO of Hello Haus, and I've got here my business partner and founder, Scott Agate.
Hey guys.
Great to have you tuning in here for today's Get Buy Ready show. Now, just before today we're going to be breaking down some of our deals, so it's going to be a great segment. You'll get a little bit of insight into some of the results that we got for the first half of November. Some of the lessons learned.
There's plenty of those always in every case study as we realise.
Yeah. So these are. I think a lot of it is going to be like technical lessons. How do we deal with this, and so on and so forth. And then some other lessons learned is all about you, the character of you, I think.
Oh, I'm intrigued. Where are you going to go with this one?
Well, you know, it's just about client behaviour.
Yeah, we work this out a lot, don't we? Across many deals and many missed deals and missed opportunities and things as well, in terms of how people read certain circumstances, what their personality type is in terms of how they respond on the run and under pressure as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And how that dictates the outcome.
Exactly. You know, and obviously when we're doing this day in, day out, I'm not going to say water off a duck's back, but it's just second nature to us. And actually being that, you know, third party expert, we're just completely non-emotional, we're detached.
Yeah, and sometimes you've got to know when to hold them and when to fold them, right? Like there's some deals that we wholeheartedly walk away from that we would have loved to have bought for our clients and been involved with, but they just don't stack. And they might not stack because of the terms of the deal, or they don't stack because the numbers don't work, right? But
exactly.
It's why we don't get too emotionally invested in it, because it really is black and white for us. It works to a certain level and on the right terms, and beyond that, you got to walk away and find a better deal. Yeah,
perfect. So if you're tuning in here live, then just pop a comment down below, put #live, and maybe tell us where you're tuning in from, and also whether you're looking to buy a property as an owner, occupier, or an investor. And if you tune into the recording, we'd love to get your feedback. So pop a comment down below, #recording. And also just let us know, you know, what your status is. Are you finance ready? Are you actually buyer ready? Are you actually like in the go zone out there looking for a property? And you know, whether or not what you're learning here from us on the Get Buy Ready show, whether it's been of value to you. Yeah. And,
awesome. And
just before I hand off to you, mate, I just want to remind for those that may be tuning in here for the very first time, Hello Haus is Australia's only property negotiation as a service business. Yeah, and so what we do is we work with clients that are typically either getting finance ready or already finance ready. So we work with them at that early stage, and we're getting them what we call buyer ready. So teaching them the fundamentals of, you know, finding, analysing, negotiating, and transacting. Then we insulate them from the selling agent. We expertly analyse the properties that they're looking at. So we call them the target. Yep. And then we jump in and do what we do best, mate, out negotiate the selling agent.
Get busy on the negotiation front, which is what we love doing.
Yeah, so we're gonna give you a breakdown of a number of deals that we've dealt with just in the past sort of 15 days, and they've all got their own little nuances.
Yeah, I don't have to go into them at too deep a level, but there's 6 kind of interesting ones that came out of the last 2 weeks that we've done. And when you kind of scratch the surface, there's almost always a story or a learning that comes out of it for us.
Yep.
And mainly it's around different responses that we get from our client or from the agent, or an outcome from the seller that we weren't expecting, a different line that was used from the agent to try and position us either on price or on certain terms and against other buyers, to pit us against other people. So it's really interesting to kind of break those down each time. So the more we've started doing that, the more we've started to find some really interesting learnings that come out of it that's worth discussing. So one of the key things since we've built the Get Buyer Ready course is how many of our clients now are finding property pre or off market. That's been the biggest thing that's come out of that, I think, in terms of educating clients to realise that your best shot at buying a property is to get there before you've got to compete with the masses on realestate.com or Domain. And to get there to see those sellers that are super motivated because they've already bought elsewhere, or they're very nervous in the current market conditions, possibly under financial pressure if interest rates are starting to bite. Those clients that are doing that and applying those techniques that we've taught them in the Get Buy Ready course are getting great results. So 2 out of the 6 people that we were going to talk about today found something with our assistance off market. One of them was in Melbourne. Lizzie was a first home buyer. We bought for her for $480,000 and it was $25,000 saving below the target price.
Wow.
She'd been looking for about 3 months or so before she came to Hello Haus. We got her through the Get Buy Ready course very quickly. She started to build her BCC email and started to build rapport and relationship with local agents.
Yep.
And soon enough, we found a property off market for her, and we got one of those exact circumstances where the clients were ready to sell. It was a family situation where I think it wasn't quite a deceased estate, but an elderly person that had moved on. It enabled Lizzie to go in and buy a property that she could add value to straight away to manufacture some equity in it and get some uplift in capital price, appreciation, and she bought it for well below her target price. So, you know, to make $25,000 saving at $480,000 spend was phenomenal. It was all due to her flipping the script and her being the one that was driving the action with the agents.
That's awesome. So, mate, just explain to everyone that tunes into this call that when we talk about saving $25,000, that's actually not the net outcome for the client, is it?
No.
No, you know,
not at all.
As a bit of a gut feel, it's really, we're saving them twice that, aren't we, when you factor in all the compounding effect of...
Yeah, when you look at rates, I think at about 5% over a 30-year typical loan term, then you've got almost double that saving. So 25 now is pretty much 50 grand over the life of a loan. So if you can save that money, why would you be putting it in the hands of the bank and the seller when you can keep it in your pocket? And that 25 grand was huge for her because that's going to enable her to put some money straight away into renovation works. That small amount that she's saved that would have been her deposit otherwise is now cash at bank, and she can go out and replace carpets and paint and change light fittings, and in her situation was put some security on windows. That was the concern for her as a single woman buying, was finding something that was nice and secure. So now she can add those security items in that give her peace of mind that when she's living by herself that she's in a safe environment. So that was a good money saver for Lizzie.
Awesome. And also, apart from just interest rates, there's also a saving in stamp duty and just other associated costs in getting into the property.
Well,
right?
for everyone that's not a first-home buyer, absolutely on the stamp duty savings. In Lizzie's situation, she wasn't paying stamp duty, which is good, and that's giving our first-home buyers a lift on the ladder for sure. And we had another one of these as well. So we had Lee buying in Southport. So Lizzie was in Melbourne. Lee was up here on the Gold Coast. Lee worked with us for probably about 2 months and found a number of properties off market because he did the course first, and he really was incredibly disciplined on streamlining the process that we teach, right down to the fact that, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me saying this out loud to everyone in our group, that he was trying to optimize the way that the search process was done and measuring the opening rate of his emails and tracking all of that data so that he knew what was working, and he was changing the script up each time he sent it as well to see if he could get a better result. And of course, that relayed to him eventually getting agents chasing him with off-market listings in a really sought-after area. He found a great property. We had a market estimate of up to about 910, and he bought it for $870,000. And it was because we found a seller that had already found another property they wanted to buy. It was off market. It was actually what I would define as pre-market, Drew, because they were absolutely adamant they were going to come to market and sell it because they'd found a property they wanted to purchase. But because he was there first and offered a fair price for it, we ended up saving about $40,000 below what we thought it was worth.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
A really good result. And he got a great property with no competition, which was completely different to all the properties he put to us prior to that, which was in heavy buyer traffic in a very sought-after area in Southport.
Yeah, mate, I still don't think a lot of people get it.
In terms of that effort and upfront?
Yeah, just in terms of, like when we talk about, you know, get focused, be consistent, you know, become the expert in your target market, do it for a very, you know, like
short period, 4 to 8 weeks is how long you should be in the market. 4 to 8 weeks
to become an expert in your target location and give yourself the best opportunity to build that agent rapport by deploying a system that we teach
It costs absolutely nothing,
Nothing.
to apply it. It doesn't take a huge amount of your time. In fact, it will save you tens of hours of your time over the long run, and you'll end up finding a better property at a lower price. And
Yeah.
the whole thing will be way less stressful as well, because you're not going to be competing against other people and emotional end users. So you're right, we can't put enough weight on this subject, because it is the reason why our best results are done pre or off market, with clients that end up buying their dream property in a lot faster than the rest of the clients that are slow to apply these tips and tricks, or
and
don't do it at all, which is what
and
most of the general public is doing.
Yeah, and evidence of our commitment to it is, deploying it now as part of the buy ready system. Pillar 4, House Finder.
Yep.
Like we're literally, if you can't do it, we'll do it for you, because we're committed to you getting the result.
And we know it works.
And of course we know it works.
Yeah, that's the reason why we want to do it, because we know it'll help you get through that system much faster through that buying process. So there's a couple of really good off-market stories there. There's a couple of really good sourced for the client stories there as well. So twice in the last fortnight or 10 days or so, we've actually found the property for the client for exactly the reasons you just said. We've been working with busy people. One of them was an interstate investor who we've bought for recently as he's building a portfolio. So this is a second property for him within a month. And the second one was for a client of ours who was overseas in Asia, an expat returning after 10 years away. Ben got a really good deal on what was his dream home, and it ended up being about 3 months before he was ready to buy. He wasn't ready to come back until February, but because we put these search principles in place, both for Aidan and Ben, we were able to actually find the property for them, because agents were calling us off market. We managed to find a great property in Oxenford in Gold Coast, which is a high growth area for Aidan, with a house on the front of the block that was already rented, or rentable, I should say. It was owner occupied, but would be an easy rental.
Yep.
But then the ability for us to carve off a back block of land to create a second lot with its own street access at the back.
Yeah.
So that alone could bake in hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit for him within, say, the next 6 weeks. We had town planning advice for him and all of the market estimate done prior to him even showing an interest in the property, and we managed to wrap it up within probably 24 to 48 hours.
Yep.
On that deal, not only did we find that and source it for him, but we saved, through the negotiation, $45,000 in the negotiation as well. So below Aidan's target price. So, that's a done-for-you service at a very low cost that he can bake in hundreds of thousands of dollars of manufactured equity, and put our fee times probably 10x in his pocket, because we negotiated that saving up front before we even started.
If we actually put that deal on the table and actually analysed it from a residual land value subdivided, with all the baked in costs of the subdivision and so on, the saving below residual land value on that site is hundreds of thousands of dollars.
We could also look at a cash on cash return. What he actually puts into the project, doing a subdivision and buying that house, versus the return that he's going to get on that initial capital that he outlays. So we actually will do a case study on that. That's a good idea, and maybe we can get Aidan to jump on that call with us as a client and talk to us about why he bought that one and why he liked that opportunity. But that's two really good properties that just from us supplying those tricks, we were able to source these properties for our clients and make some big savings, which was really exciting. So it's been a good couple of weeks or 10 days, whatever, with those 6 deals, and there's a lot of learnings from those. One of the other ones that...
Just on that, before we move on, because I don't... let's sort of differentiate what Hello Haus is versus a buyer's agent, just in the context of those 2 deals. Because we were sort of stretching our service...
Sure.
Almost on the other side. So just put that in your words.
Well, a buyer's agent is given the task of finding the asset for you, analysing and researching all that opportunity, and then typically they charge either a flat fee for their service or a percentage of the purchase price. So there's no motivation for them to save you money. They're not financially aligned with you, but they go to that added service of doing all the legwork for you. Now, that market in Australia is less than 3% of the transactions nationally, per annum, I should say. So out of the 615,000 deals last year, there's only about circa 15,000 that were done through a buyer's agent. Hello Haus is very deliberately set up by me to service the 97% of the Australian buying public that have got the capability of going it alone to find their own property, before we step in and, as you say, analyse and
Yeah.
insulate you from the games. So in this instance, we actually went a little bit further than our normal service because we're doing these strategies of building rapport and relationships with agents. We're getting these opportunities come to us.
Yeah.
And then we've got the ability to break them down at a very early stage, much like a buyer's agent, but at a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
And because we're looking for particular assets and value, and we know, where that value is in terms of the development side of things as well, then when those properties come up, we understand construction prices, replacement value, opportunity in terms of creating second lots and subdivisions and things like that through renovation or building works, that we can add a lot of value to our clients at no extra cost.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I just wanted you to explain that in case people thought that we were actually offering a buyer's agent service. But essentially what we're talking about is when we deploy, when we're either, looking at a target property for a client, in the sort of normal course of what we do, we find other potentially better targets.
Yes.
Yeah, and
often.
and then if we deploy House Finder in the specific target area, then we're going to find everything that potentially is on the market listed through platforms like realestate.com and Domain, obviously, but then, all of the agents coming forth with anything that's pre-listed. And so, mate, that House Finder is just a mad service.
Yeah, well, to give you an idea of how this works in real time, we had a client engage us yesterday and give us a property to purchase in Brisbane that they're looking to do as a subdivision. It's a property developer. So we've done our market estimate on that with our in-house valuer and come up with where we think the numbers sit. But in addition to that, we've spent probably the last 2 hours this morning finding him other options to stack that up against to create the value. So is this better than this property that we found? Is this better than that property that we found? So all of a sudden now, they were looking at one, but they've got 3 targets.
Yeah, it's like beat your best.
Yes. So now they've got multiple targets they're looking at going, actually, I didn't think of that one, or I hadn't seen that one, or I hadn't realised there was the potential to do something in that area. Now, together, we'll work through those. And he's already written back to one of them and said, actually, that's probably not going to work because of these reasons for me. Or that one would work, but it's going to require, more capital or, a DD clause or whatever it might be. So we're very hands-on with the client, very interactive, and we're just focused about finding the right asset for them and then obviously negotiating the best possible outcome and the right terms.
Yeah.
Another one, just to touch on those first 6 deals that we wanted to talk about, was a client of ours in sort of the Newcastle region in New South Wales. Now, they had come to us after looking for probably 3 or 4 months. We set them up with the course. They started applying the tricks. We spoke about this actually on here on the Get Priority talk about 2 weeks ago, that whilst they were applying what they believed was the right strategy, they were actually doing a
fraction of it.
Fraction of it is a better word, fraction of it.
Yeah.
So to give you the kind of nuts and bolts of this quickly, we say that you should be looking at every agent in the local area that's sold a property within, say, the last 3 to 6 months that's in a similar price range, maybe plus or minus 20%. If you're looking for a 3-bedroom house for 700 grand, you'd look at, either side of that 20% locally for maybe the last 6 months, work out how many agents there are, and then build a way to communicate with all of those agents instantly at no cost so you can stay top of mind and get those listings. Now, when she did the course, she took note of that, went out and did it, and we were asking her, how many agents are you speaking with? A couple of weeks ago we broke it down and we realised that number was around 15 or 19. I can't remember what the actual figure was, 15. And we said, okay, well, let's work out how big a market share they have. And we quickly realised that there was way more agents that were servicing that area, north of 60 that we should have been talking to.
So we're only canvassing 15th of it or 20th.
Yeah, maybe 20% of it in terms of the market share those agents had. But anyway, fast forward 2 weeks, she broadened that to all of the agents. We actually did it for her. And then within 2 weeks, we bought a property from one of those results. So it took less than 2 weeks from when we applied that to find the property, and she'd been looking for months and months. Now, then we were able to negotiate a saving. It had been on the market for only 4 days, and we negotiated a $19,000 saving below the target price, and that was on in the mid-800s. So that's a significant saving for them as well. And that trick was free, and if they had applied that from day one, they may have been in and out of the market in a matter of weeks.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, and so what's the wrap up?
Well, I think we, the average saving is always good to look at, I think. We don't like to talk about it too much, but over the last 6 deals that we just wanted to workshop there's an average saving across that of just under $30,000 under the target price that the client set. So there's definitely some great buying opportunities. And I sense there's going to be some really good buying opportunities before Christmas. This was always a really interesting time for me to buy personally. You're going to have really motivated sellers. Only the sellers that want to sell are on the market at this time of year. So you've got to weed out the properties that haven't sold because they're weak assets or B-grade assets, and try and find those A-grade assets that are on the market. And you can be sure that if they're on the market at the moment, they're motivated sellers. They've either bought somewhere else or the people want to trade because they're ready to trade up, whatever that might be. So some great opportunities to buy before Christmas is something that we want to touch on. So I would definitely see this next 8-week period through till the end of Jan as a really good opportunity rather than taking a holiday. A lot of clients will say to us, well, I'm just going to have a break, we're going to go away. It's like, actually, this is a really smart time to double down because everyone else is on holidays.
Out there.
Yeah, everyone else is on holidays. And what you'll find is a lot of agents list properties in November and December that are on long agency agreements with their clients with a view to auctioning them in February. So they know that they've got a signed agency agreement in their hand. So these are the pre-market opportunities. And those owners have said, if you can find a buyer over that Christmas period, we'll sell. We're ready to go. Otherwise, we'll be ready to sell in February for the first round of auctions after the Australia Day long weekend. So there'll be a whole heap of properties, if you scratch the surface, that are ready to be bought now that no one knows about, that are hidden off the market.
Amazing.
Yep. So they're the ones you've got to get.
Okay, and so let's sort of talk about. There was also there was a lesson we were sort of speaking about just buyer behaviour in the heat of the deal.
Yeah, the heat of the negotiation.
And just losing their cool.
Yeah.
Or not. It's not a matter of staying calm.
Yeah, I think the lesson that we had recently with this deal was that buyers that are inexperienced property purchasers think that the solution to most problems is to put more money on the table, or dig their heels in and not put any more money on the table just out of spite. And both of those things are going to be bad outcomes. If you dig your heels in, you're probably going to lose it. You can't get the deal together. And if you overpay for it as a solution because you can't negotiate or you haven't got confidence around another alternative solution to get the deal done, then it's going to physically cost you money, right? And we had that situation in the last couple of weeks where we had a client give us a target price. I made a negotiation that was fairly substantial below that, but they wanted particular terms. They wanted to get access to the property before settlement and to pay a particular rent as an access under license fee. When we got into the weeds of the negotiation, I determined that the best result for them, or the best strategy, was to offer more rent when they went in access under license, rather than put more money on the table because it was going to save them money.
In the long run.
They couldn't see that, and their view was we should put more money on the table and just wrap it up. But because I had so much experience in putting these deals together, I could see that there was an alternative option for them that they couldn't see. They had the blinkers on, and it would have cost them $9,000 extra. So there was $9,000 that we just added value there, just purely out of understanding how the process works, understanding all the options, and just from sheer life experience in that job.
Yeah, and just
that's $9,000.
Calm in the heat.
$9,000 in one phone call. For them.
Yeah.
That's saved. So, and I think that is really relevant because you say this to me all the time. You only know what you know.
Yeah.
So that's a perfect example for this client. Like they thought the only decision here was to put more money on the table, and they wrap it up, and they were adamant that that was what they had to do, but they just didn't realise there was an alternative solution.
Mate, there was about 3 other options in the kit bag.
Yeah, and one really good one.
You just could have pulled something out of there.
Yeah, and we did, and we saved them the money, and they listened, thankfully, because they trusted me, and we got the deal done.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you have to, I think the lesson there is if you engage experts, like real experts at what they're doing, particularly entrusting them with the negotiation, they're, like Hello Haus is on the same side of the table with our clients.
Absolutely.
And because of our performance fee is structured based on how much we save, mate, we're out there we're out there negotiating for every dollar, aren't we?
Yeah, and fighting for those $9,000 savings or whatever it might be, because it makes a big difference for the reasons that we just said earlier. It's effectively double that over the life of a loan. So every dollar counts. And that it's interesting because a lot of these deals, if we talk about these 6 that we've done, a lot of them were one-on-one because it was off market. But the A grade assets that we're competing for, and we should always be buying an A grade asset if it's possible, because they're the ones that are going to see the best capital growth. I wanted to talk today about the actual buy depth on that, because in the media, it's doom and gloom. The market's, falling off a cliff. All parts of Australia is dropping heavily, huge quarterly, negative results. Everything's in the red. But the reality is on the ground, and I'm talking to lots of other agents and property professionals that are in the industry, is that really good quality assets are holding their value, and they've got plenty of people competing for them. And I wanted to give you one example. The one that we mentioned we bought for our expat client. We spotted that property last week. The agent said to us, 3.9 buys it. Okay, and he was adamant. The first person that gets to 3.9 million secures this property. Now, we went through there on the Sunday, or the client's family went through and did a video tour on the Sunday. And unfortunately, the agent had said to us up front that there was 4 buyers booked to see it: Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And because we were going through on the Sunday, they weren't willing to make a decision until all 4 parties had been through, because there was a lot of interest from people. Now, this is a property that had been on the market for 2 to 3 months already, okay? And finally, they'd worked down to a certain level where it was priced effectively for where the market interest was. And that was where it always should have been in the first place. But because the agent changed the wording to the market, saying, here's a number that actually buys it, that drove heaps of interest in. So it's kind of like bait advertising, right?
Yep.
They just flip the script, all of a sudden everyone piles in, they get heaps of interest, they create competition. Fast forward to Tuesday afternoon, all 4 buyers put their hand up and say, we want to buy it. So it goes into a sealed bid situation where you've got to put your best offer on the table to secure the property. It ended up that we had an inside running because we had really good rapport with the agent. So I had a fair idea of where the other 3 offers came in at.
Yep.
And we paid the price to buy the property on the basis that it was well below what my clients were willing to spend. And we bought it for 4.251. So Sunday you're being told 3.9 buys it. Tuesday night, you have to pay 4.251 to just win it.
Yeah.
And that is really a sign of 2 things. A grade assets are going to be sought after in any market, and they're the ones that you want to buy, because that's going to rocket up in capital growth, I'm sure, when the market bounces back.
Yep.
And also that there's a lot of BS from agents, in terms of price positioning and the way that they say certain terms, which suckers in buyers. Now, the thing that I didn't like that this agent did, but that was the really key thing that I picked up on, is he kept saying over and over to us, and I'm sure to the other buyers, that 3.9 buys it. Now, I picked him up on it and said, well, 3.9 doesn't buy it. 3.9 triggers the sale where your clients are happy to sell, but there's no guarantee that 3.9 buys it. Is that correct? He's like, no, 3.9 buys it, 3.9 buys it. I'm like, no. Let's just unpeel this onion. And I just replayed that to him again and said, you've got to choose the right words here. And it's 3.9 doesn't buy it. You cannot give me that guarantee. Yeah. But what he was doing was trying to sucker everyone into the fight by giving them reassurances they could buy it at this lower number. But really, he knew that would create competition and it would go well beyond that. And that just leads to disappointed buyers. So you've got to have your ears wide open, listening to these things to understand why agents say certain things and what they mean by those actions.
Yeah, and so in that scenario, though, our client didn't overpay. Because when we analysed the property, we still thought it was value buying, right? At that bid level that he went in at.
He paid $1,000 more than our market estimate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
I just wanted to make sure we got that out there. That,
so this is actually it's a good point, because I had forgot to mention this. So when we did the research prior to the Sunday, when we sent it to him in Asia and said this is the property that we think is going to suit your criteria, we did our analysis, and our analysis said up to 4.25. Now this is when we knew at that point basically that something sub 4 million was a chance of buying it. Okay. And the reason that we did that, and the buyer actually called us on it and said, hey, why would you put 4.25 as a market estimate on this when the agent's telling me that I can buy it for 3.9? And I said to him exactly that. Ben, what happens in this situation is they'll bait you into it. Yeah. And we know from experience this could well and truly go beyond that. So we forget what the agents tell you on price, and we work on comparable sales evidence to work out our market estimate. And he ended up paying, so fast forward 4 days or whatever it ended up being, and he paid $1,000 more than what our market estimate was. Yeah. So we were absolutely bang on the money.
So why that's important to you if you're listening to this recording, you can't possibly participate in a sealed bid unless you've done deep market analysis and you're confident with what number you're prepared to put on the table to buy it.
Yeah.
Right, because otherwise you're just going to be poking around in the dark.
Well, and also, not only would you risk massively overpaying, but you end up with buyer's remorse, because you could have ended up buying it for 4.25 and the next best buy was at 3.9 because you don't have a clue what market value is. So the beauty of us doing the deep analysis and conveying that confidence to Ben was that he knew that there was reasons why it stacked up at a certain price, and he could have no regrets about whether or not he bought that because it was in his price range, within his buying capacity. He was totally comfortable doing that, and he had all the reasons why it would value up at that level.
Yeah.
And that gave him the ability to move with speed through that buying process with confidence.
Yeah, so we created the pathway for him to submit that sealed bid with confidence, knowing that it was probably going to win the property for him, but not overpay.
And also the confidence that if he went to that level and missed out, it was always going to go beyond where he was comfortable paying for it.
Exactly.
So then you don't have regret.
Yeah,
because you're like, well, I went to a level where I was happy to pay, and beyond that, it didn't have value to me.
Yeah, and in that scenario, if our upper limit of the market estimate that we would support was the 4.25, and all of a sudden Ben was talking to us about a sealed bid for 4.35, we'd be going, oh, hang on.
Yeah.
We can't see value at that level.
Yeah. Well, he bought really well, bought a beautiful home, and I can't wait for that to bounce back in.
Bought on the money.
Yeah, value, and they do really well out of it, as well as enjoy their beautiful new luxury home, which is a good story.
Awesome. Yep. Well, I think we've covered some great, obviously, results. We've talked about some lessons learned. Mm-hmm. We've definitely, we can't stress it enough that just don't pay lip service to House Finder, our sort of off-market strategy and systems to bring forth those opportunities by building agent rapport. If you're actually just going it alone out there and you're not at least deploying that, then you're just not seeing the whole of the market.
Absolutely. Yep. Crucial. And that's why there's so many success stories that come off the back of it. So
awesome.
All good. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Yep. And so just a bit of a call to action here. We'd love to talk to you. So if you're actually looking to thinking of buying a property at the moment, if you're actively out there looking at the moment, before you do anything else, just book a call. 15 minutes. It's free. Talk to one of our buyer coaches. We'll understand your, goals and objectives. We'll discuss a strategy that will enable you to achieve them. And if nothing else, you'll walk away more knowledgeable and more skilled than actually going it alone. So we look forward to seeing you on those calls.
Awesome. See you guys.
Bye for now.